Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you're listening from, I'm glad that you're here. My name is Michael Francis, and I am a seeker of truth. Let's begin. Last time we did chapter 3. This time we are doing chapter 4, which is Cain murders Abel. I'm going to go ahead and read through the chapter, then we'll get to my insights on what all this is, and we'll unpack it. Chapter 4 begins, "The man was intimate with his wife Eve, and she conceived and gave birth to Cain. She said, 'I have had a male child with the Lord's help.' She also gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel became a shepherd of flocks, but Cain worked the ground. In the course of time, Cain presented some of the land's produce as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also presented an offering, some of the firstborn of his flock and their fat portions. The Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but he did not have regard for Cain and his offering. Cain was furious, and he looked despondent." Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you furious? And why do you look despondent? If you do what is right, won't you be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it." Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out to the field." And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" "I do not know," he replied. "Am I my brother's guardian?" Then he said, "What have you done? Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. So now you are cursed and alienated from the ground that opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood you have shed. If you work the ground, it will never again give you its yield. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." But Cain answered to the Lord, "My punishment is too great to bear. Since you are banishing me today from the face of the earth, and I must hide from your presence and become a restless wanderer on the earth, whoever finds me will kill me." Then the Lord replied to him, "In that case, whoever kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over." And he placed a mark on Cain so that whoever found him would not kill him. Then Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain was intimate with his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to Enoch. Then Cain became the builder of a city, and he named the city Enoch after his son. Irad was born to Enoch. Irad fathered Mahuyal. Mahuyal fathered Methuselah, and Methuselah fathered Lamech. Lamech took 2 wives for himself, one named Ada and the other named Zillah. Ada bore Jabal. He was the first of the nomadic herdsmen. His brother was named Jubal. Sorry, I keep losing it. For some reason, it keeps double clicking. His brother was named Jubal. He was the first of all who play the lyre and the flute. Zillah bore Tubal-Cain, who made all kinds of bronze and iron tools. Tubal-Cain's sister was Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, "Hear my voice, wives of Lamech. Pay attention to my words, for I killed a man for wounding me, a young man for striking me. If Cain is to be avenged 7 times over, then for Lamech it will be 77 times." Adam was intimate with his wife again, and she gave birth to a son, named him Seth, for she said, "God has given me another offspring in place of Abel, since Cain killed him. A son was born to Seth also. He named him Enosh. At that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. I apologize for all the skipping around, for the pauses. For some reason, it kept double clicking and going way farther than what I wanted it to, and annoying. Anyways, so let's go back to the very beginning of chapter 4 and get my coffee. Kind of like my coffee, so especially when I do this. All right. Digging into this chapter. Let's see, verse 1. The man was intimate with his wife Eve, and she conceived and gave birth to Cain. She said, I have had a male child with the Lord's help. Cain, firstborn of men. His name means a man acquired. This is why Eve says, I have made a male child with Yahweh's help, with the help of God. So it's kind of interesting that it's a man acquired. So you can't do anything without Elohim, without God, without Yahweh. So it's kind of interesting that the very first man born, she says, hey, God help me have this. I acquired this because of him. Verse 2, she also gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel became a shepherd of flocks, but Cain worked the ground. So in verse 2, Abel, we say it as it is written, but it actually has a heh sound in front. So instead of Abel, it's Habel. Habel is more accurate. The meaning is like a breath. The heh sound, here today, gone tomorrow. Ironic that his life was the same, and aren't we all? You know, it's the heh sound is almost like a breath, is the way it's kind of described in the Hebrew. It's Habel. So it's kind of interesting that just like Abel and his life was so brief, we actually don't know how brief. They, could have been 100 years old, could have been 200, could have been older. We don't know. But to them, with how long they lived, I believe, I'm trying to remember, I think Adam lived, because that's in the next chapter, but I think Adam lived over 900 years. So it was like 930 years or something like that. We'll get to that in chapter 5. So yeah, but to them, let's say they were about 100 years old when all this occurred. To them, they were like, man, he was just a kid still, So kind of interesting that his name kind of has that heh sound to it when it's actually said in proper Hebrew, and that's kind of what it means, is a breath. Okay, verses 3 through 5. In the course of time, Cain presented some of the land's produce as an offering to the Lord, and Abel also presented an offering, some of the firstborn of his flock, and their fat portions. The Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but he did not have regard for Cain and his offering. Cain was furious, and he looked despondent. So this is kind of setting up the narrative here for this whole chapter. Abel offers a firstborn and fat portions. So if you look at biblical law, there's a lot of sacrifices that are made. One of them is firstborn of the flocks and their fat portions. Others, you have grain offerings, wine offerings, olive oil offerings. All these different offerings that are way later in biblical law. But it's kind of interesting that these are the first offerings made to Yahweh, and that. So one was accepted and one wasn't. We're about to dive into the reason why. At least my belief of the reason why. So cross references for this would be for the firstborn and the fat portions is Exodus 13:12, Hebrews 9 verse 22, Leviticus 9:24, Judges 6 verse 21, 1 Chronicles 21. Chapter 21, verse 26, 2 Chronicles 7, chapter 7, verse 1, Psalms 20, verse 3, and Hebrews 11, verse 1. All Leviticus 1, so for reference, if you really want to know all this about this kind of sacrifice, it's all found in Leviticus chapter 1. It was offered for sin. For 1 Samuel 15:22, and I kind of highlighted these as my main points, so I've got, and I'm going to go ahead and read these just so that you get, kind of where I'm coming from with Abel's sacrifice, where it's found in the law and stuff like that. So Exodus 13:12. Exodus 13, verse 12. You are to present to the Lord every firstborn male of the womb. All firstborn offspring of the livestock you own that are males will be the Lord's. So you're supposed to sacrifice the firstborn. So there comes in what Abel was offering. We got Hebrews 9:22. 9 verse 22. Let's see. According to the law, almost everything is purified with blood, and without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. So this comes as the sin offering, as I mentioned. So whenever you did sin offering, blood always had to be the offering. That's the reason for Messiah, for Yeshua, coming in and dying for us. So that's a big deal. That lets you know where that's coming from. Without the shedding of blood, sins aren't forgiven. So all the bad things that we've done back before Messiah, they were required to do these sacrifices, and it had to involve blood. It had to involve live sacrifices. And that's where some people say, well, that's the reason why Abel's was accepted and not Cain's. I'm getting to that. I don't believe that's the case, but this is the logic that a lot of people use, and I see where they get it, because Abel was offering an actual blood sacrifice for his sins, and so that would kind of seem like why Yahweh accepted his and not Abel's. But we'll get to that. Let's see. Oh, Hebrews 11:4 as well. So let's see. I have to type it in here. 11 verse 4. So by faith, Abel offered to God a better sacrifice than Cain did. By faith, he was approved as a righteous man because God approved his gifts. And even though he is dead, he still speaks through his faith. So again, so this is where I was kind of getting to as my main point. Is that his was acceptable because of his faith, because of his, what I would call the heart posture. He was doing it not because he had to, but because he got to, because he was thankful, because he was, he was showing faith in what God was doing for him in his life. The forgiveness of sins, the fact that he's blessing him, all this good stuff. That's the difference between Cain and Abel's sacrifices, in my opinion. That's the reason why Abel's was accepted and Cain's wasn't. Cain wasn't coming at it from that. He was doing it, it seems like, from I have to do this. And then when it wasn't accepted, he's like, that's a bunch of garbage. Why? So that's kind of what I'm getting at. All right. And the last one is 1 Samuel 15. 1 Samuel 15, verse 22. Then Samuel said, "Does the Lord take pleasure in burnt offerings and sacrifice as much as in obeying the Lord? Look, to obey is better than sacrifice. To pay attention is better than the fat of rams." So what he wants is our obedience. What he wants is relationship with us. The only way that we do that is by having by obeying him and listening to what he has to say for us. What he wants is the best for us. So By obeying, we're showing that we love him, that we have a relationship with him. He wants that more than the sacrifices. Sacrifices was not the point that Yahweh had ever made with them. He needed the shedding of blood for the forgiveness of sins. It was a foreshadowing of what Messiah was going to do. So, but what he truly wants is relationship with us, and the sacrifices was just a foreshadowing, as I just said. So there's that. So into verse 5 into 6 and 7. So hold on. Cain offers fruit from the land, given to thank God for provisions and mercies. So that was the reason for, if you gave grain offering, any of your produce, stuff like that, through the land, it was given to thank God. Thank you for providing for us. And this is in all of Leviticus 2. You can read that just like Leviticus 1. If you want to read about that, that's in Leviticus chapter 2. Let's see, Jude 1 verse 11, Numbers 18 verse 12. Okay, so let's see, Jude 1:11. Let's go there. Come on, thing is not wanting to highlight. Jude 1 verse 11. Says, "Woe to them, for they have gone the way of Cain, have plunged into Balaam's error for profit, and have perished in Korah's rebellion." Don't have to worry about Balaam and Korah. We'll get into that. That's way, way later in the Bible. It's coming. I promise. It's coming. But yeah, so what they're saying is, you've gone in the way of Cain. Woe to these people that are, you're just following the laws. You're just doing it just to do it because you have to, because it's Jewish tradition. They don't have a true relationship with God. They're not, wanting to know God. They're not wanting to obey him and please him as much as he's wanting to take care of and please us. And, well, not really please us, but he wants what's best for us. So there's that relationship again. Cain's relationship was found wanting. Okay, verse 6 through 7. So let's go back to Genesis. Genesis 4. And we're looking for verse 6 through 7. Then the Lord said to Cain, Why are you furious, and why do you look despondent? If you do what is right, won't you be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it. Okay, so here's where a lot of stuff, this is where it all comes to a head. Like I said before, 3 and 5 kind of sets up the narrative of the account. And I say account all the time. A lot of people say story. I don't like saying story because then it makes it sound kind of like it's fairy tale, not really real. It's an account. So setting the narrative, now we're getting to the real cusp of it. I've heard 2 different viewpoints. One, the reason why Cain was rejected is because it wasn't an animal sacrifice. Oh, we've already been over this. I already kind of went over this. Anyways. Animal sacrifice, but here's where I find issue. With this view, both are sacrifices accepted by Elohim for different reasons. So I don't think this theory holds water. Just like I just said, yes, for sin, blood's required, but why wouldn't, he accept Cain's? Cain's giving thanksgiving. He's saying, thank you for what you've given me, God. So that's where I don't think it really holds any water. The second part of this debate is Cain's reason, his heart posture for the sacrifice. The scriptures aren't specific on this, but it's my belief that Cain was doing the sacrifice as a have to. He wasn't doing it to be pleasing before God, whereas his brother did, which is why he became angry when rejected. And as verse 7 says, sin was crouching at his door. So, God has a conversation with him. And, it's like, why are you so rejected? It's kind of funny that's God again, asking questions he already knows the answer to. Why are you furious? Why do you look despondent? God already knows the answer. He just wants us to answer honestly and be, honest with him. It's part of that relationship. But Yahweh tells him, if you do what is right, then, you'll be accepted. You're good. In other words, obey what I'm telling you. Do the things, and everything's good. I want that relationship with you. But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at the door. When we don't do what God is telling us, that's sin. So anything that he's given us, commandments to obey, he wants you to do them. Do them. It's pretty easy. His desire is for you, but you must rule over it. So he's telling him, you've got to resist the temptation. Don't sin. Do what's right. Rule over it. All right. Verse 8. Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out to the field. And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Cain kills Abel. Method isn't clear. It doesn't really say. It just says, hey, let's go out to the field. He attacked his brother and killed him. Some people say it was a rock. Some people say it was a spear. It really doesn't matter. Whatever. There's many theories. I'm not going to go into all of them since it really isn't important. The fact of the matter is that he killed his brother. He's the first murderer on the face of the earth. First murderer, and his brother Abel is the first victim or martyr, if you will. So Abel is a victim. It kind of makes him the first martyr to, he's doing what God has instructed and he got killed because of it. So just like the other saints and the other martyrs, he did what was right before God and got killed for it. Okay, verse 9 and 10. Then the Lord said to Cain, where is your brother Abel? I don't know, he replied. Am I my brother's guardian? Then he said, what have you done? Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. So again, here's Yahweh with his rhetorical questions. He knows the things already. He already knows what his brother did. He saw it, And as he says, your brother's blood cries from the ground. Cries to me. He already knows. Abel is already with God. He's dead. He's already in what will later be called Abraham's bosom. He's already with Elohim. So, let's see. Verses 11 through 12. Cain's curse. The curse. Alright. So now you are cursed, alienated from the ground that opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood you have shed. If you work the ground, it will never again give you its yield. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth. So Elohim curses Cain by closing the earth from yielding crops for him, meaning Cain will now have to hunt or barter for his food. And then made a nomad, a wanderer, for the rest of his days. So he's telling him, you're not going to be able to just plant crops, do any of that. You're going to have to do something else. Figure it out, buddy, because that's what I'm cursing you with. So he's in essence telling Cain, the way you made your livelihood before, you were good at it. Well, guess what? I just closed it up for you since you shed your brother's blood and it's in the ground now. Ground's not going to produce for you. Okay, next part of the curse, 13 to 14. So, not really a curse, it's actually kind of a blessing. It's the mercy of God. We'll get to that. But Cain answered the Lord, my punishment is too great to bear. Since you are banishing me today from the face of the earth, I must hide from your presence and become a restless wanderer on the earth. Whoever finds me will kill me. Okay, so Cain obviously didn't like the punishment, and is greatly worried about others trying to kill him, as he did to his brother. He should have been thankful he wasn't struck dead by God for his sin. Struck down by God for his sin. This is my opinion, He should thank his lucky stars. God's just, he's cursed him, but he's allowing him to live. God should have smote him right there. Boom. Should have been instant justice, but Elohim decided not to. Stayed his hand. Said, you're going to get punished, but I'm not going to take your life. And this is where you see God's mercy, verses 15 through 16. You're going to see how merciful God actually is. So in verse 15, then the Lord replied to him, in that case, whoever kills... I did it again. In that case, whoever kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over. So he's saying, hey, if someone kills you, they're going to get it worse than you. And he placed a mark on Cain so that whoever found him will not kill him. Then Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. So, this mark, I don't know what this mark is. It's not really specific. There's some theories, that was a mark on his forehead, a mark on his arm, hand, whatever. Again, one of those, I don't think it really matters, but God, in essence, is at least having mercy on him and allowing him to live, like I said, and trying to make it to where people will be wary of him and be like, hey, don't mess with that guy. God places a mark on Cain as a warning. Not sure about the mark. There are tons of theories that, again, I'm not going to get into since that isn't important. What is important is you can see the mercy and grace from the Most High, even for the most horrific of all sins. The word for Nod, where Cain went, literally means exile, wandering, and unrest, which would define Elohim's curse on Cain. And we know that it's east of Eden, so it's on the other side of Eden. It's kind of helping you get kind of a location, I guess. The line of Cain. So we're going to go 17 to 22. So a little bit bigger chunk here. Cain was intimate with his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to Enoch. Then Cain became the builder of a city, and he named the city Enoch after his son. Irad was born to Enoch. Irad fathered I always struggle with these names. Mahuiel fathered Methushael, and Methushael fathered Lamech. Lamech took 2 wives for himself, one named Ada and the other named Zillah. Ada bore Jabal. He was the first of the nomadic herdsmen. His brother was named Jubal. He was the first of all who played the lyre and the flute. Zillah bore Tubal-Cain, who made all kinds of bronze and iron works. Tubal-Cain's sister was Naamah. So here you're seeing the line of Cain, and we're going to kind of delve into this a little bit. Not as much as we will with Seth's line. You'll find later. But so line of Cain. Genealogies were very important to Yahweh and the Israelites. You'll see it throughout places like Numbers and Exodus and all these other places. They don't seem very important, just like I struggle with the names. Everyone struggles with the names, I think, except for, of course, people that are really good with Hebrew. But they are indeed important. This is the reason why. They point to important figures and ultimately to Messiah. So keep this in mind. I know they're they're boring, but they are listed in the scriptures for a reason so pay attention to them. Okay. When we get to chapter 5, you'll get Adam, Seth's genealogy. So not to confuse you, just take note that some of the names are the same, or they will be very similar. But they are not the same people. So you're going to get an Enoch on Seth's side. You're going to get Lamech, Methusael. It almost sounds like Methuselah. It's pretty close when you actually look at the rendition of it, the English one at least. Similarities, but two different lines. So, but the genealogies are important, especially with Seth's, because that's going to point ultimately toward Messiah and other important people such as Enoch, Noah, King David. You know, all these lines are all going to come, and it's all going to play out to Messiah. Again, we're talking way down the road, but anyways. Okay, so we read verse 19 where we had Lamech, right? And he had his two wives. Something I almost forgot to actually put in here. Lamech is one of the first people to have two wives. First one of polygamy. Totally not scriptural. What we're showing here is how sinful and how bad and awful of a person Lamech was. Okay? God only intended one man, one woman become one flesh, period. He's the first sinner in this way. In essence, it's adultery, no matter how you... Adultery. Idolatry is to graven images. Adultery means that you don't have one wife. You've got more than that. So it's adultery no matter how you take it, put it, slice it. Don't care. Polygamy's wrong. Period. So we're going to go to verse 23 and 24. Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, wives of Lamech. Pay attention to my words. For I killed a man for wounding me, a young man for striking me. If Cain is to be avenged 7 times over, then for Lamech it will be 77 times. So you'll find out why I wanted my inflection in my voice the way I did. So these are the only 2 verses in the Bible about Lamech, this person. They puzzled me for a long while. I couldn't understand why Elohim would put this seemingly insignificant in the grand scheme of things, such an insignificant person and thing, into this passage in his word. I had to dig deep and watch tons of what a lot of people would call fringe or not quite most popular videos on the topic. So these are the things that I found. It's interesting just because it's so short, and that's the reason why it bugged me. But I'm like, why did God put that in there? It seems kind of ridiculous. You know, who cares? Just do the begots and get on with, because it goes right into Adam being intimate with Eve and on the set. That's what's important, right? So why this? These are the things that I found. And these are from, just like me, people that are just lay people, not, big names, mainly, I guess, because they haven't really gone over it, I guess. I don't know, but, what I do know is that I got a lot of insight from the people that I did watch and the stuff that I did find. So, this is what I found. Number 1, Lamech, in the Hebrew, if the 3 letters that make Lamech, there's 3 Hebrew letters that make Lamech. I'm not going to try to get into that. I got it in the Strong's anyways. There's 3 letters that make the word Lamech. And if you invert it, turn it around, put the first letter last and the last letter first, okay, the 3 letters, it makes the word Melech, which is king in Hebrew. I found that interesting. I found it very interesting. It's like, huh. And this is one of the videos that I watched and I kind of looked into, and I was like, wow, Yeah, it really is. So, anyways, here's why. Here's why I find it interesting. We already know that Satan, the adversary, always perverts and twists what Yahweh does and says. So it's almost like the name itself is mocking God. It's like he's taking the word king, Messiah, he's the King of Kings, right? And he's taking it and he's turning it around. It's like, I'm going to make my own. So Satan's always trying to do that. He's trying to mock and pervert everything God does, and you'll see why with this. He's got two wives. He killed a person just for striking him. Stuff like that. He was an evil person. So with a king, you expect righteousness, justice, elevated things, a high standard, someone that does the right thing, leads people properly, is obedient to God. That's what you expect out of a king. That's why we have Messiah as King of Kings. It's what you expect, right? So again, Lamech, the absolute inverse of what we know that we want out of a king, we get the exact opposite, the inverted version. We get injustice, arrogance, boastfulness, etc. Things that are not associated with a good king, or Yeshua, the good shepherd, also King of Kings. So I find it kind of interesting, how opposite he was, because he's gone beyond what Cain did. Show this arrogance. Here's a man boasting of his evil, right to his two wives that, again, evil. He's boasting, but wanting not only Elohim's mercy and grace, which Elohim gave Cain this mercy and grace by saying, "Hey, I'm not going to let the people kill you. You're going to wander. You got my curse. This is what you get for killing your brother." He doesn't say it, but implied would be proper justice would be the death penalty. Elohim has mercy on him. Says, "Nope. You're going to get this curse, but I'm not going to, I'm going to put this mark on you. No one's going to kill you, because if they do, they're going to get 7 times worse than you." So, in essence, Lamech, wanting the 77 times, he's demanding more of that grace than even Cain got. Like, that's absolute arrogance. It's almost like, yeah, I did this, so God's got to give me 77 times the grace, that no one's going to be able to kill me. It's just absolute arrogance. I can't get over that. Like the boast and evil done was a good thing instead of what was evil. Okay, so this is just an added note. I'm so glad I took the extra time to dig into Lamech and his very brief account, since it's blessed me personally in a way I wouldn't have otherwise. It's so fun and so good. Praise Yah for his little nuggets like this he gives us in his words. It's the little things like that. I'm glad I dug into it, because I wouldn't have found all this stuff out. And, just researching it like I did, at first I wasn't getting anything, and I was like, okay. And part of the discipleship group that I'm in, I had the fellas that are with me, pray about this and, for the week, and stuff started coming up now that, after they prayed and everything, stuff started popping up. It was one of those things. I was like, man, is this really all there is? It just seems so simple, and so why put it in there? Ta-da! Found some stuff. Praise the Most High. All right. So now we're going to finish this out. Okay, we got verse 25 and 26. I'm going to try to, that way I don't have the skippy stuff going on. Anyways, Adam was intimate with his wife again, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth. For she said, God has given me another offspring in place of Abel, since Cain killed him. A son was born to Seth also, and he named him Enosh. At that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. Okay, so let's wrap this up. It's been a minute. This has been a long one. So, but I want to go ahead and get this done. Eve bears Seth, or if you say it in the Hebrew, it's Sheth, to replace Abel. You'll never be able to replace someone. We're all created unique. That's just a fact. Once they're gone, they're gone. We get Eve's sentiment, though. She's saying, the offspring will keep going. We get it, but I find it kind of funny that in place, you're replacing a son. You're not really replacing him, since we're all unique. But we get it. I really want to delve into Seth's name. As I just said, it's not really Seth, it's Sheth. It sounds different in the Hebrew, but Seth is the way we say it. But I'll give this as a cliffhanger. I'll dig deeper into Seth's name, meaning, and all that good stuff for the next time, chapter 5, since it discusses Seth's line in Yahweh's masterpiece for mankind. Okay? Lastly, and most important part of this chapter, even though it's brief, it's just a small little thing. Okay? It says, at that time, people began to call on the name of Yahweh, Elohim, the Lord, however you want to say it. To me, this is so very important. This is people finally getting it. They're going, dude, we're doing all this bad stuff. Like Cain killed Abel, and now you got Lamech, who's married to 2 wives, when God clearly stated that's 1 man, 1 woman. What are we doing? And Lamech killed a man just for striking him. It doesn't say, with what, again, many theories. Could have just slapped him right in the face. And so Lamech killed him for it. We're doing all kinds of evil, and now at the end of that chapter it's going, now people are starting to say, God, help us. Of course, in God's big story, he's getting there. Messiah's coming. They don't know it yet, but people are starting to cry out for it already, right at the very beginning of all this, stuff that we've caused with our sin, with our evil. So anyways, I'm going to leave you all with that. Next installment we're going to do is Genesis chapter 5, and that's all it is the line of Seth. We're going to get into the names. There's a lot of names. I'm going to have to really dig into this. Names that you're going to know just from, big names like Noah, Methuselah and all that good stuff. Everyone knows the flood account, I'm pretty sure, even seculars. Anyways, I'll dive deep into this, and we'll see you the next time. Till that next time, God bless you and shalom.